The act called Kennedy and Berle, you want to know about. Well, let me see, how old was I then? I was Kennedy and Berle, let me see. I was 14. So I think it was in 1922. That's the first time I appeared in vaudeville with Elizabeth Kennedy. I think that's the one that you're referring to, Elizabeth Kennedy. We did a team. We were a team, not like Burns and Allen, nothing like that. We weren't even old as George or Gracie, mostly George, of course. And we did a dramatic act. Now that's a surprise, I guess, maybe to many of the viewers, but I was originally a straight child actor. I did dramatics. I didn't do one word of comedy until I teamed up with this little girl called Elizabeth Kennedy, and the name of the act was Kennedy and Berle, and the billing was just ridiculous. No, I mean ridiculous. Today, if you look at it, it was called The Twinkling Stars, Elizabeth Kennedy and Milton Berle in Broadway Bound. Now that became a show later by Neil Simon, and I sent him a wire just a few years ago. You're doing a show called Broadway Bound, I'm suing you. Because I used that title, or we used that title 60 years ago. And this act that I did with the little girl in vaudeville. But you see, in those days, you had places to play in vaudeville. You had places to break in your act, try out your material, and see if it worked. And you had places to flop in. Today, we do not have places to flop in. You better be good the first time, right? Because we have television and whatever we have with internet and everything that. But when we did all live shows, now live shows was from vaudeville. And you had to be good the first time, and the audience didn't take any excuses. And if you blew a line or something, even while you were doing this act over so many years, the audience would go, ooh, and then you'd try to get out of the trouble and start to ad-lib. And now, when I was 14, you must say to yourself, ad-lib, he's ad-libbing at 14? What we had to get used, but that was what we call training. That's from working up the ladder and starting and doing everything the hard way without knowing what was to become of our career. I'll never forget this incident. Have we got time? Yeah, maybe about 12 hours yet. Anyway, we were appearing, I think, in Akron, Ohio. See if I remember this. And this was in, oh my gosh, it must have been in 31 or something. And I was on the show with her. I was on the bill in Akron. And Steve Allen was in a roller. She was a baby, and he must have been about two years old, or a year and a half, and he's in the roller, and she's doing her act out on the stage, and she left Steve Allen with the roller in the wings. So, no, I didn't know anything, so she said to me, as she come off the stage, she said, "Hey, kid." I said, "Yes, Miss," she says, "Montrose." I said, she said, "Would you do me a favor?" What? "I'm going to go out between the shows." Those days we had one show in the afternoon and two at night. It was 3 shows a day. And she says, "Do me a favor, would you? Would you, kid? I'll give you $1 if you do it for me." I said, "Well, I don't need the money. What do you want me to do?" She said, Will you watch the kid? Now he's in a roller. And he's sitting there. "Oh, I said, yeah. I'm going to go out because I got to do some shopping." She said, now I know Steve won't mind this if I say this, but she didn't go shopping. She went next door to the saloon, and she drank. Well, Steve didn't know that then, and she didn't get intoxicated or anything, but she went out for a nip. And she was away, and I'm waiting there about 25, 35 minutes, and I'm pushing the kid. And he's starting to cry, and I'm making faces to him, going, kitty faces, and he's laughing after I hit him. No. And she come back, and she said, "Thank you, kid," and she's about to give me the $1, and I said, "No, thank you very, very much." So every time I meet Steve Allen now, and he admits that he knows that I was his babysitter, he always says, I don't know if he said it on the show, Milton was my babysitter, and I did. So I said, "Yeah, and you owe me $1." Those days when I was in vaudeville, and many of our guests that are on the show today or tonight or tomorrow, I don't know, I think they went through the same thing I did. There were so many trials and tribulations that we had to face. We had to buck so many things. Housing, moving into a town, traveling from one town to another by bus, whether it be storming or raining or a flood. I'll never forget one theater that I played, and that was in Albany. I went to rehearse there. My mother and I got there by train. It took us, buses from New York, and got to the theater with my music in my hand, and ready to rehearse the band. And I walked in the door, and it's all boarded up. So there was some policemen standing in front of it. Some detective, no policeman. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "The theater burnt down yesterday." And I was supposed to open the next day. All those trials and trouble, snowstorms, losing your music. Well, I'm talking theatrically, which happened to us because we're talking show business now. And I think they'll agree with me through the hard times. So it was a lot of ups and downs.